A warm welcome to another edition of Diplomatic Channel. I'm Amarachi Ubani. The remains of Pope Francis, who died on Easter Monday, have been laid to rest in a tomb at the Santa Maria Maggiore Church in Rome, following a funeral service attended by around 55 world leaders and at least 130 delegations from around the world. The pontiff was known to speak out against issues like poverty and hunger, injustice and war. He met various world leaders in his lifetime and left an impression on each. Now, later in the program, we'll highlight what most have said about the late Pope Francis. In the meantime, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is marking its Golden Jubilee this year. ECOWAS was founded on May 28, 1975, to promote economic integration, ultimately leading to an economic union in West Africa. It also plays a role in maintaining regional stability and fostering relations between member states. During the week, the Authority of Heads of States and Government launched the beginning of activities commemorating the Jubilee. It took place in the Ghanaian capital, Accra, with leaders making more commitment to boost the economies of the region, especially in the emerging global order. Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is chair of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, paid tribute to the 5 decades of regional unity and progress and urged member states to embrace the moment for renewal. In a few minutes, I'll be speaking with the Senior Special Assistant, Foreign Affairs and Protocol to the Presidency of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Ademola Oshodi, about the ECOWAS, Nigeria's relations with the community, and other issues of foreign policy. But first, a quick check on other major discussions in diplomatic circles.
The Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs says it is very concerned about the rise of cyber slavery across West Africa, targeting Nigerian citizens, particularly vulnerable youth. A statement released by the ministry says many young Nigerians are lured out of the country under the false promise of lucrative employment opportunities abroad, particularly in crypto-related operations. It warns Nigerians, especially the youth and parents, to exercise utmost caution when presented with job offers, particularly those offering easy money, travel overseas, remote work involving cryptocurrencies, and says the federal government is working closely with regional partners, law enforcement agencies, and international organizations to tackle the crime, rescue victims, and bring perpetrators to justice. Nigeria has extended condolences to the government and people of Iran following the devastating explosion at the Shahid Rejai port in southern Iran near the Strait of Hormuz on Saturday, April the 26th. A statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says Nigeria stands in solidarity with Iran and commended the swift response of emergency services in their efforts to assist the injured and affected communities. Qatar's Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani confirms that negotiations to end the war in Gaza have not stopped, highlighting continued joint efforts between Qatar and Egypt to reach a comprehensive solution. He stressed that the primary objectives of the negotiations remain the return of hostages, the release of prisoners, and an end to the war.
Welcome back. As the ECOWAS launched plans for celebrating 50 years of its existence this May, the Council of Ministers held a meeting in Accra where they reiterated their commitment to regional solidarity and discussed contingency plans after Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali officially withdrew from the bloc.
I'm particularly delighted that our commitment and exhibition of the spirit of solidarity has allowed us to address critical issues affecting our community and make decisions that will significantly impact the effectiveness of our regional organization. Your diligence and dedication in analyzing these issues have been exemplary and commendable.
But it is important to emphasize that we are still not ruling out rapprochement, the need for us to continuously engage, because we are so interlinked, we are so connected, We are one people. And as I said in my remarks and consistently put forth, we must not shut the door at rapprochement, at diplomacy, at negotiations, at serving as a bridge.
ECOWAS has had a rough few years in recent times, the coups in West Africa that have led to changes in democratic governance, the endless insecurity problems now parading as banditry and kidnapping in certain parts, and an economy that is anything but united. I wonder how the organization looks ahead to the next 50 years and how it rates itself so far, what member countries would score its performance. I want to bring in now Senior Special Assistant, Foreign Affairs and Protocol to the Presidency, Ademola Oshodi, who has so bravely offered to answer my questions today. Ademola, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
ECOWAS marks 50 years this year. In fact, the real anniversary is in May, on May 28th, which incidentally is my birthday. For an organization that was born in Lagos, why is Nigeria not spearheading the celebrations or even making the announcements? This was done in Accra, Ghana last week.
Well, thank you for having me. Nigeria has deliberately taken a back seat regarding the celebration. You have people critical of Nigeria, saying Nigeria is dominating ECOWAS. Nigeria, has the chairmanship of ECOWAS, with the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Nigeria being a two-term chairman of ECOWAS. So I think it just seems more fair for another leading country in ECOWAS, that is Ghana, to host this, austere, fabulous event of celebrating such an esteemed organization of 50 years of, of uniting the subcontinent, providing progress, providing, many cases security, and in many cases ensuring that the West African subcontinent is united towards a common cause of integration and prosperity.
Well, some would say that ECOWAS has been on the decline, especially in the last few years. There are a lot of meetings going on. ECOWAS makes decisions, but there's, well, apparently from the outside, it seems there's very little implementation. Worse is that ECOWAS' weakness is made even more evident by the exit of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Would you agree with those who say the community is not as strong and effective as it used to be?
Well, these are definitely challenging moments for ECOWAS, probably the most challenging time of its 50 years of existence. I mean, you can talk about the 90s and the crisis in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and maybe Gambia. But this is challenging with military, with the soldiers taking over power in many African countries, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, not to talk of even Guinea. And so it's not encouraging. But we look at how ECOWAS has managed the situation, how ECOWAS has ensured that there's an open avenue for them to dialogue, for them to hear their cases. And the problem is not an ECOWAS problem. They have issues with, for instance, their former colonial powers, France. They have issues with, their own internal issues of, insurrection and, jihadists, etc. So it is a fundamental problem that, in many ways, is phenomenon that goes through many African countries. But the good thing about ECOWAS is ECOWAS has focused on the positive, ensuring that they are not left behind in ensuring that, they come back to the table. For instance, there's been tremendous attention towards ensuring that even though they've left ECOWAS still gives them the opportunity, the provisions of free movement, free goods, interaction, and so it's almost as business as usual for ECOWAS, even though they have chosen a different path. So again, it shows how magnanimous the organization is, and also shows the fact that there's still hope for them returning back to the fold.
Well, some would see that as a weakness. I mean, individual countries strive to join communities and continental blocs, not leave them. Leaving them signifies that there is a problem. And one of the reasons why, this group, because they do have their own bloc now, the AES, the Alliance of Sahel States, they say, there hasn't really been much of a community in ECOWAS. ECOWAS has not supported them when it comes to solving security challenges. The economy is one, but also basically because I think, ECOWAS countries refuse to call out leaders for, staying longer than they should be in office, and then the people suffering underneath the so-called civilian leadership.
Yes, there is some challenges regarding ECOWAS, and especially the leadership, the institution of some heads of states in ECOWAS. But you can't throw the baby with the bath. And I'll tell you why. ECOWAS has been there for these countries. ECOWAS has been there for the Sahel countries. We've been there, we've provided trade. They are landlocked countries that depend on the coastal West African countries for trade. They depend on the ports of Benin Republic or ports of Lagos to trade. They depend on educational exchanges. They depend on a lot of our security advisement and our security parameters, especially the fact that the fight against Boko Haram. Nigeria has worked closely with Niger Republic and other African countries in advising them how to fight insurrection. So ECOWAS has been there for West Africa. ECOWAS fought, and many people, many Nigerians and Ghanaian soldiers, especially Nigerians, fought and died for stability in Liberia, fought and died for stability in Sierra Leone, ensured democracy was sustained in Gambia, as advised and given extreme advice to countries of Niger in their own times of need. So we can't just look at what is happening right now and then say ECOWAS is not been there for them. A lot of them depended on European and Western powers for their security. ECOWAS was not invited. It was mainly France, America, even the German troops that were in the Sahel fighting the insurgents. It wasn't an ECOWAS thing, even though ECOWAS shared information. So I'm quite sure, as much as they're going through their different stages of grief and anger, they cannot, in their hearts, look at ECOWAS and say ECOWAS did not play a role in providing economic integration and security advice. It is not just ECOWAS of the past few years that has challenges. It's ECOWAS of 50 years that has brought tremendous integration, trade, and in many ways, human development for those particular countries that have left ECOWAS at this moment.
So perhaps you have some insider information that we don't, because I remember that when when the junta took over in Niger, Nigeria was forefront, because of course the Nigerian president is also chair of the ECOWAS heads of states and governments. And the president then said the ECOWAS would use every means, including force, to get the junta out of Niger. I mean, these countries probably see ECOWAS high-handedness instead of trying to understand exactly why they're leaving, trying to negotiate, trying to have discussions. ECOWAS laid conditions for them. ECOWAS announced embargoes, announced sanctions. Instead of really trying to understand what was going on in those countries, are you confident that these states, these three states to form their own alliance, would one day reintegrate into ECOWAS?
I believe over the years, over time, maybe hopefully sooner than later, they will see the light of that, and they will see that ECOWAS is there to support them, which has always been. ECOWAS has gotten the medals for fighting for stability and for economic integration in West Africa. We showed it with Liberia, we showed it with Sierra Leone, we showed it with educational and even technical aid corps by the Nigerian government, providing technical aid, nurses, doctors, engineers to a lot of these West African countries, ensuring their development. So ECOWAS is there. ECOWAS has brought passports and make it easier to give you more legitimacy in your traveling, the ECOWAS passport. So there's also the ECOWAS ECHO, the financial aspect, the currency that ECOWAS is actually planning to issue. So we just need to do our work. Individual African countries do the work, be a shining example why they need to return to ECOWAS and be part of this success story that is going to happen.
Now, it's been almost 2 years now into his presidency, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is yet to appoint ambassadors. He withdrew them. The first year he became president, well, we asked about it. The presidency said this was a common feature. Every president does it. They withdraw ambassadors. But 2 years on, he's yet to appoint anyone. And some of the diplomatic circles say that this is a very peculiar situation to be in, that a president is making foreign trips, holding courtesy visits and so on, and there are no ambassadors on the ground to prepare for these prepare programs for these trips and to follow up on discussions held and so on. What do you think is going on? What can you tell us about that?
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is, in sort of case, one of the best ambassadors Nigeria has had. He's traveled around the world, providing, helping, bring investments into the country. Our development, our loans, grants we received, that's a lot of it is because of him, because of his movement, because of his visits to these places. And so he's still providing that vacuum, not to the point that we have mission. I mean, he's having ambassadors in each country, but he's also ensuring that Nigeria is not left behind in international arena with his visits and his what he's bringing back with him, the massive attention towards our challenges, towards his reform. Even in security forums, the president's presence there, which is not really been this case in his predecessors in government in Nigeria. His presence in the security forums, ensuring that our security challenges are listened to, and we get the assistance that we require, is very important, and we can't miss that highlighting that point. But the ambassadors are important, and I am quite sure that in due time they will be announced and they will be sent to their various missions.
This was nearly the same response we got when we asked about it a few weeks ago. But I'm sure you've heard the complaints about foreign missions not getting enough to pay remuneration of staff. You've heard about some staff being owed up to 13 months' salaries. People relying now on banks making overdrafts just to keep body and soul together. What advice are you giving the government regarding this? I mean, we have so many missions outside. This is almost embarrassing having to even mention it. When you talk in some diplomatic circles, they're like, this is a commonplace thing, in many missions.
Well, it's something, again, that is going through the appropriation department. The budget for 2025 has allocation for funding for the diplomats, for the missions, for the ambassadors. And I think we should just be patient enough to, hopefully things will change when the budget is executed and issues will be resolved. But one of the things that commend the diplomats Nigerian diplomats around the world on the great work they're doing in highlighting the Nigeria and the reforms of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. As a tremendous amount of investments have come into this country, tremendous amount of attention towards Nigeria, our soft power abilities, providing, for instance, promoting our musicians, our movies, Nollywood, our athletes. There's one time I was in Ethiopia, and everybody was just talking about how the Nigerian mission, provided an exhibition that showcased, Nigerian Afrobeats. So the positiveness of Nigeria is definitely been portrayed and promoted by these diplomats. So, and I do commend them for the great work, and ensure that hopefully things will be much easier for them as the time go on.
You really do have to commend the foreign missions. I know that recently the Nigerian High Commission in Ghana joined forces with the Ghanaian government to deport at least 231 Nigerians from the country that were involved in cyber crimes. Some of them are suspects involved in cyber crimes, and then the others are victims, people who were brought over to Ghana, illegally trafficked, given stories that they would be involved in legal work and all of that, and then been, locked up into apartments and so on, and then being forced into cyber crimes and so on. And I understand that the Nigerian High Commission did a lot, even financially. And I'm saying this because I know that, those missions don't get a lot of remuneration or a lot of financial allocations to be able to do things like this. So maybe this is something you could advise the presidency on regarding, the work that foreign missions do, especially in countries where Nigerians have been deported from. You have Libya, you have now Ghana, where it seems, many Nigerians are heading towards to perform, well, some Nigerians are heading towards to perform illegal tasks.
Yeah, it is rather unfortunate the way some Nigerians are treated outside Nigeria. I also want to commend the Nigerian Diaspora Commission and their effort in repatriating Nigerians that are stuck in places like Libya, even as far away as Turkey, and of course in the West African sub-region. So with the diplomats and the government officials are doing a lot, and sometimes through some challenging moments. But we should definitely ensure that they are supported, and we should also ensure we highlight the great works they're doing and how Nigeria has been promoted. So I do give kudos to them, and I don't believe their efforts has not been recognized.
Well, Senior Special Assistant, Foreign Affairs and Protocol to the Presidency, Ademola Oshodi, thank you. I appreciate you making time to be on the program today. We hope to have many more conversations with you on Diplomatic Channel.
Thank you.
Pope Francis has been buried, but now the College of Cardinals, known as the Conclave, has a task of electing a new pope. This could take a few weeks. Many presidents and global leaders were at Pope Francis' funeral on Saturday. A lot of them had paid tribute to the late pontiff. Leading the tributes on the late Pope is Argentina's President Javier Milei, who says he feels profound sorrow at the death of the leader of the Catholic Church. He said that despite minor differences that seem major today, having been able to know the Pope in his kindness and wisdom has been a true honor for him. President Milei, a staunch libertarian who had introduced sweeping austerity measures, had clashed with the Pope in the past. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu described the Pope as a humble servant of God and a guiding light of millions whose life was defined by mercy, justice, and love for humanity. He said the Pope's death, coming on Easter Monday, is a sacred return to his Maker at a time of renewed hope for Christians. U.S. President Donald Trump posted on his Truth social media platform, "Rest in peace, Pope Francis. May God bless him and all who loved him." South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa says Pope Francis had humility and a profound commitment to making the Church and the world a better place. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese called him a modernist and says he was a devoted champion and loving father for Australian Catholics. Bangladesh's interim government said Pope Francis was a towering figure of moral clarity, humility and compassion. Russian President Vladimir Putin remembers the late Pope as a defender of the highest values of humanism and justice, and that he had had the privilege of communication with this outstanding man on many occasions. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said Pope Francis knew how to give hope, ease, and suffering through prayer and foster unity, adding that the late Pope prayed for peace in Ukraine and for Ukrainians. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said he was deeply saddened to hear of the Pope's death, commenting, "His tireless efforts to promote a world that is fairer for all will leave a lasting legacy," and that the Pope's leadership in a complex and challenging time for the world and the Church was courageous, yet always came from a place of deep humility. King Charles released a message saying he and Queen Camilla were most deeply saddened to learn of the Pope's death, and that His Holiness will be remembered for his compassion, his concern for the unity of the Church, and for his tireless commitment to the common causes of all people of faith, and to those of goodwill who work for the benefit of others. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the Pope inspired millions far beyond the Catholic Church with his humility and love so pure for the less fortunate. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi says he is deeply pained by the Pope's passing. The Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi says Pope Francis was a voice of peace, love and compassion. Finally, amidst the many tributes pouring in, is one from U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, one of the leaders lucky enough to have had a private meeting with the Pope before the Easter service on Sunday. He said, "My heart goes out to the millions of Christians all over the world who loved him." And that's Diplomatic Channel. I'm Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.